So we need to consider that, and it even going to 97% without pre-K being mandated. So elementary school, I guess, is not necessarily the right place to look right now with respect to school closures. So if you look at the middle school level, it's dropping off but then rebounding a little bit. But high school is dropping way off. And while that is a scary and painful reality, I think it's one that we need to recognize, is that we're going to have a significant issue at the high school level in future years.
Yeah,
Say that again. We're going to have it being too low.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, because the kids are all there in school and accounted for. So that number's very accurate.
Kids are going to move through.
But okay, so what is the parameter
of saying?
Yeah, what is the parameter of saying? Yeah, what is the parameter you're suggesting?
The other difficulty with the high school, if you were to go there, closing a high school of 1,400 seats of capacity wipes out. Now you're at 98%. You keep in mind, because of the size of the school, so again, you could set the parameter if you're only looking 5 years out. If you're making decisions on 10 years, because it is projected to go down, then you could make that decision. It's outside the parameter. But are you willing to make a decision now based on what a 10-year projection says? So those things, you got to keep all.
Well, then. Right, but I think that helps get to, those parameters help get to the right answer. The right answer might be, we're not in a place to close anything else at this point. But I think if we set the parameters properly, and so if you have a system-wide utilization, target utilization that we're setting, but you also have a range at the elementary, middle, and high school range that you're willing to live with. If that range is 85% to 95%, then you may look at some options and say, there's no way to close a high school and fit in those parameters, or there's no way to close a middle school and fit in those parameters, right? So
I think those averages are going to be so hard to use in any productive way, because each incremental step is such a big one. I'm not sure it's not going to lead you down a path of things that maybe look good that really aren't good. I almost think you need to look school by school and really determine, is this school in a situation where 10 more kids would help it or hurt it? Sort of a kind of a red or green for growth, a red or green for community growth. If we said, well, we're actually kind of at an awkward size at this school, and 10 less kids here wouldn't impact it negatively, and we also know this is a slow growth area, maybe it becomes, I don't want to say a target, but it becomes something that could really not be hurt and benefit. But I think you got to almost get down to that level. Otherwise, we can almost do the math this afternoon on what a high school. I also think that, the difficulty of closing a high school was born out of, having one too many. But I would hope that we would do everything in our power never to do that again, because I don't know how we'd afford another high school ever. I'm talking 30 years down the road with what the state requires and what it would cost to build a high school.
But I agree, Commissioner Howard. And while we may get a little bit below, was it you, Mr. Kane, that just said, like, if we close a high school, we're going to be way over too, and we're not going to have any room for growth. But I mean, ultimately, we've designated this to the committee. So are you suggesting a parameter around the high school specifically? Or
I thought it made sense to say that each level, elementary, middle, and high school, that when you're done with the plan, that the target utilization for each level is to be in the 85 to 95% range.
Right.
And whatever the options come up as a result of that.
Right.
As a total or for each school?
For each grade level.
I was saying level.
Yeah,
those
well,
three
other
levels.
than closing a school, though, isn't the grade level, I mean, aren't you dividing by the same number? Am I missing something? I mean, you're going to end up with if you have this many middle schoolers and this many buildings, your overall average utilization is going to be the same number no matter where you put them. You're not really
but it's the school closure committee, so I'm assuming, going to be looking at whether we need to be closing schools.
But if they're saying if we close a middle school and stay within this range, that could be one of the options, or close a high school and stay within this range,
I
or
get
close
you.
an elementary and stay within this range.
Okay.
So the variable would be the number of schools.
Gotcha. Okay.
And there is the possibility of grade reconfigurations that would address some of the things that you're bringing up. Like, and I'm not saying do it just to do it, but if it's something that fits our long-term vision and grade reconfigurations works well within an option, then
If that, and no, we're not finished with this parameter, but you're going to have to then have the committee look at all the factors that are impacted by grade reconfigurations as
right,
well, and make sure that the instruction programs, all those things work as well. So that's just one of the
Well, I
mitigating
thought
factors.
we're just leaving everything open, like, right? We
Yeah,
didn't take
yeah.
grade reconfiguration off the table, but, I mean, it's up to,
You would have to take it off the, my recommendation would be, you would only put it on there if you wanted it off the table.
right. So if-
Otherwise, it's open for discussion.
Right.
All right.
Right. And then the only other parameter that I heard us saying was that we want the committee to come back with multiple options,
right.
right?
Most
Right.
definitely.
Yes.
And within those multiple options, I'd like to see a high-level cost-benefit analysis, right? What are the significant advantages and
level.
disadvantages to each one of those options?
I think that would be wonderful. Is the committee set up, are they in a position to be able to provide that to us?
Yeah, we did for the last
Okay.
round, yes.
Okay, and I would like to say that, just to make sure that we're not too broad, right? So we want multiple options. Do we want to say we want at least 3, and they need to be substantially different?
No.
Right, like, because you could argue with the last round of school closures that we had 5 options